What's good, everybody? Take Hazy back here with another wrestling video. Today I want to do something a little different. I wanted to go over my idea for how I would revamp Ring of Honor, book things a little differently. I did a first draft of this yesterday. I wanted to clean it up a little bit. So let's jump right into it. So the basic concept here is I think the biggest flaw with Ring of Honor is that they're taping it pre and post show of the AEW TV taping. So you're getting an AEW crowd in an ROH arena or an ROH show. And no one is really there to sing Ring of Honor, and when you're doing it after Dynamite, after Collision, a lot of the crowd is leaving, so you're getting like a 20% full crowd. This was more glaring when AEW is running bigger arenas and having a hard time filling that out for their own shows, but you're getting a fraction of the crowd for Ring of Honor, even when it's a smaller building, so it looks a little bit more full, and you're getting a deader crowd. So I think ideally the best thing would be for Ring of Honor to be on the road and be its own touring brand. The problem with that is it's not really a TV mega company like AEW and WWE. It's more of an indie. But I think what you could do is partner with indies. So I wanted to go over some basic rudimentary like finances for an indie, what it would cost to implement Ring of Honor in there. So first, let's go over your basic like independent schedule. I have this booked. You're going to have about 6 matches per show. I have 4 singles matches, a tag team match, and like a 6-way scramble match, which is 18 wrestlers overall. You can obviously mix and match that how you want to do it. You could do 2 tag team matches, 2 singles, and like a fatal 4-way, 3 triple threats, and a 3-way tag match. And I guess you probably need 4 triple threats to even out. But you get the idea there. And then the rest of your crew, I have 3 announcers. That's a ring announcer and 2 announcers play-by-play in color. 2 referees so they could alternate each match, and I got like 4 technicians. Technicians is kind of like a catch-all term. This would be like your sound guys, your live stream helpers, your cameramen, that sort of stuff. And then we move over to the wages. I've got it as a flat like $100 per local. So this would be the wrestlers and the staff at $100. I'm just using nice round numbers here, just to make the numbers nice and square, easy to compute, easy to kind of add and subtract for everybody. This is in no means accurate. These are just round numbers. Also, I have everything just in kind of tiers. Obviously, that's not realistic either. I don't think every wrestler is getting paid $100 or $500 or $1,000. There's levels to all of it. But we're just going to use a flat rate for everyone, just to keep it simple. So your local talent is $100 per show. My local indie is Defy. That's what I'm most familiar with, so that's what I'm going to use for my examples. But obviously, fill in with your local indie or indie you're most familiar with. So your locals, these would be like your Cody Chungs, your Amiras, your Evan Rivers, Randy Myers, those kind of guys. $500 guys are your high-profile indie guys. These are the guys that still kind of tour the country. Your Kevin Blackwoods, Calvin Tankmans of the world. If you look a little bit lower, I have flight and hotel here as well. Everyone past local, you're going to have to fly in and do room and board, for lack of a better term. So I used $400. I think your average flight, probably $250. Your average hotel, $150 around the country. Again, we're just using round numbers here. Your TV wrestler is $1,000 per show, plus the flight and hotel. Think of this as like your Brian Keith. Adam Priest is maybe not at that level now because he's just recently on TV, but that kind of level of wrestler. Adam Priest, Brian Keith, the Outrunners a couple years ago. Probably they're still there. Kind of your lower level like AEW jobbers. We're going to use this for international wrestlers as well. So think of this as like Mexican wrestlers and when you're on the East Coast, like European wrestlers. Not necessarily because they can command more money than the Kevin Blackwoods of the world, but because you're flying them across the ocean and across borders. Flights are probably going to cost a little more. $500 is your like prominent TV wrestlers. Think of this as like your Roderick Strongs, your Kyle O'Reillys, maybe like your Matt Seidels, guys that have been around the block for a long time, but they're not stars, still working indies every now and then. And then $5,000 a show. This is your stars. This is John Moxley working indies. This is Mercedes Moné working indies. Those kind of acts. And then the last thing here is I got $10,000 for rent. That's to book your arena. If I use Washington Hall, which I think is probably higher price, $10,000 might be a little high. But again, we're just using round numbers. So if you look at the breakdown of booking your whole show here, if you do 27 locals, that's $2,700. You bring in 1 high-profile indie guy, that raises your cost $800. 6 high-profile indie guys is $7,500. So again, that's going up $800 per person. So you're increasing from 1 to 6. 5 high-profile indie guys, that's $4,000. 1 TV star and 26 locals, $4,000. 4 TV stars, $7,900. Prominent TV guy, you go from $4,000 to $5,500. 2 prominent guys, you jump all the way up to $1,390. And then if you book like 2 stars on the show, that's $1,330. I should say $13,300, just to be clear. So you see, as you're booking more high-profile talent, the cost goes up pretty substantially. You know, you're booking 2 stars, it's over $10,000 more than when you're booking an all-local show, and you still got 25 locals on the show. So if we go down to revenue and expenses breakdown here, I did just a flat $50 for every seat in the house. Obviously, I know that's not realistic. Front row is going to cost more than general admission and so on and so forth. But just for the sake of simplicity, we're doing $50 a ticket. Your average show, I went $300. Your capacity show, I went $750. In between, I went $500. I changed these numbers up a little from the first draft video. I wanted to do a $250 increase for each thing, but $250 you were losing money no matter what. So I bumped the average show up to $300 just so there's a way to make money, just to show that as a possibility. Your average business, I think you're trying to make like a 10% profit on anything you sell. That's more of like a tangible personal property business, but we're going to just use that as our barometer for an indie show. The promoter wants to make money. At the end of the day, they don't want to lose money. So we'll figure 10% of the gate is a healthy earning for the argument's sake here. So you see, as you sell more tickets, the profit percentage goes up. That's the goal. Anything over that is ideal. And obviously you don't want to lose money, first of all. And then the gate after rent is, we're just taking that $10,000 rent out. So that's kind of our operating cost after rent. So your average show, you're only selling 300 tickets. You're only making $5,000 before paying anybody. So if you look at it, an all local show where you're booking like one high profile guy is the only way to make money. This is maybe possible, but you have to have like a really built-in fan base hot for your product, or some local guys that can sell shows. I don't know that we really have anyone like that in this day and age, but think kind of like if you had like a Von Erichs in Texas. Obviously no one in the indies is that level of star. I'm sure the Von Erichs got paid more than $100 a show, but that's kind of the only way you're making money here. Otherwise, you're needing to bring in more money, which means bringing in more talent. So you kind of look at a capacity show. You're making only almost $25,000 if you're doing all locals, way above your profit margin of $3,500. But if we don't expect you to sell 300 tickets for an all local show, obviously you're not going to sell 750. So you're looking at one of these more expensive tiers where you're bringing in like 4 prominent TV stars, 2 stars, maybe a star, and 3 prominent TV guys. You know, you're making a little under $15,000 if you can sell the 750 tickets. If you're only selling the 500 tickets, you're not reaching your profit goals there. You see, we're making like $1,700 for 2 stars. Profit goal is $2,500. So you're kind of just making it out with the skin on your teeth. So obviously, if you can do everything yourself, that's the more profitable option, but that's much easier said than done. So my idea is, what if Ring of Honor kind of piggybacks on these indies and incorporates themselves in? So we're going to do some fundamental changes here. So I'm going to say an indie show is 2.5 hours no matter what. So 2.5 hours for those 6 matches. Maybe you got an intermission mixed in there. We're going to book Ring of Honor with this. So the show is going to go from 2.5 hours to 90 minutes, and then you got a 60-minute ROH taping in there. Overall, maybe the show runs a little longer before editing because you got to change the ring skirts and all that stuff. But you're getting about the same amount of wrestling. You maybe end up getting more matches because you're going from 6 matches on the indie probably to 3 or 4. Probably 4. 3 seems a little short for a show, especially if you got people paying for the live stream and anything like that. But with Ring of Honor being a TV show, you're probably still getting 3 or 4 matches on that, and the matches are just going to be a little shorter. So you're getting a little bit more bang for your buck match-wise. We're going to split the revenue 60-40 with Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor is going to pay all their talents regardless of which show they appear on, meaning that if you think your local indie, they announce like, hey, we booked John Moxley, they put John Moxley on the poster. In this scenario, you're just booking ROH talent or people that are like ROH approved, so maybe like CMLL talent or like some UK indie guys, but you're not going to be booking any like TNA, AAA guys, anything like that from the rival promotions, WWID guys. So you get a little bit more limit on who you can book. I don't think Tony Khan and Ring of Honor would make much of a stink if you wanted to bring in like a Japanese talent. I forgot to cover that when I was going over the internationals, but I had $1,000 for TV wrestler. We're going to say that is also if you're bringing in a Mexican star, or if you're on the East Coast, a UK star, and then the next tier is a $2,500 prominent TV star, we're going to say that is a Japanese star, or if you're on the West Coast, like a UK star as well. Not necessarily because the talents cost that, but because you got increased flight costs. For Japan, you might need an interpreter. Like, I know, for example, with Dragon Gate, you probably got to book Ho Ho Loon as like the English interpreter and as a wrestler on the card. If you're booking any if you're flying over like Casey or something, a lot of those guys don't know English. Mexican star is a little easier because every state you can find someone that speaks Spanish if the promoter doesn't speak it themselves. Japanese is a little higher barrier, but mainly it's the flight costs that are driving up the cost there. So back to the Ring of Honor though. So Ring of Honor is going to book somewhere between 6 and 10 of their own wrestlers on the show, so that Indy can put those guys on the marquee. So you're not able to promote like, hey, we got Jeff Hardy on the card from TNA, but you could put Bandito and Athena and Jay Lethal and Von Erichs, Dalton Castle, those kind of guys on your marquee instead. And you're not footing the bill for them. Ring of Honor is paying for them. Because Ring of Honor is a TV taping and you're probably booking this a couple months out in advance, you're not going to necessarily be able to announce your card ahead of time, but you can announce the stars that will be on the show. And then Ring of Honor would kind of be beholden to give you a card, maybe like 2-3 weeks out. As late as it's possible so you can get those last little ticket sales for your card. But you think, like, let's say Ring of Honor tells you, hey, these 8 wrestlers will be on this show, you can put those guys on your marquee. And then 3 weeks out, they say, hey, we're going to do Bandito versus Jay Lethal. We're going to do Athena versus Robin Renegade. We're going to do the Kingdom. We're going to do the Kingdom in a showcase match with some of your locals. So we'll book the Kingdom against Midnight Heat. We're going to do the Von Erichs in a showcase match. So we'll do them against Sinner and Saint. I guess Sinner and Saint's technically TNA, so maybe not Sinner and Saint. So let's say C4. And then you're also promised Brian Keith, who happens to be the Defy World Champion. He's not booked on Ring of Honor, so you can book the Defy World title on the Defy portion of the card and do Brian Keith. Maybe you want to bring in a higher profile guy to be the main event of your Defy card, so you bring in like a Calvin Tankman. Let's see, Billy Starks didn't get booked on the Ring of Honor card, so Marina Shafir's your Defy World Champion, Women's World Champion. You got Billy Starks promised to appear, so you can book Marina versus Billy Starks and your Defy Women's World Title match. You got Dalton Castle didn't get booked on Ring of Honor, so you can do Dalton Castle versus Randy Myers, something like that. So you can't necessarily announce those matches 3 months in advance, but you can announce them like 2 weeks in advance, put those guys on the marquee, try to sell tickets that way. The Indies also going to need to supply less talent overall because Bobby Cruz will be there, Ian Riccaboni will be there. You got your talent scouts and whoever your bookers are. Think like Christopher Daniels, Chris Hero, Jerry Lynn. Those kind of guys that are probably your talent scouts / your producers. They'll be backstage as well. So you can do like meet and greets and stuff with them. So as the indie, you really don't need to bring in higher priced talent because Ring of Honor is bringing all those guys. So your local fans might even be excited to meet like Bobby Cruz or Ian Riccaboni, not even necessarily the wrestlers. So we're going to say the indie needs at least one less wrestler and technician because Ring of Honor will bring their own camera guy along with like the announcers, like I said. So if we look at the same ticket breakdown here, is the same shows, 300, 500, 750. Tickets are still $50 a pop, so your revenue numbers are the same. Ring of Honor takes their cut before you pay any expenses of 40%. So a $15,000 gate drops down to $9,000 before any expenses are paid. $3,750 gate drops down to $22,500 when you're paying Ring of Honor. So we see the 300 ticket show. The 300 ticket show just isn't going to cut it with all this talent. You got higher pressure, a lot of star power there. There's no way you're going to make money here. And you can see in the 500 and 750, the numbers aren't as high, right? You go from, again, almost $25,000 if you were to sell capacity all locals at that 750. That drops down to a $10,400 revenue, all locals here with capacity. The main difference, though, is it's actually feasible to sell 750 seats with all locals here because you got like those 8 Ring of Honor stars. So if you get an Athena or a Bandito or something, you know, you're getting like that high profile star talent at $0 cost. So making that $10,000 profit on an all local show here actually seems feasible, where it's mathematically possible, but not really possible to happen realistically. So you go on down here. I got one high profile indie guy, 2 high profile indie guys, 2 internationals, a mix of 2 high profiles and 2 internationals. So if you can hit that 750, you're making money no matter what. Again, if you could do this all by yourself, you're making more money, but the stress and the risk goes down because Ring of Honor and Tony Khan are paying the Ring of Honor wrestlers and talents to be there. So then if we look at the Ring of Honor cut, Now, Ring of Honor also has to make money off this show. Not necessarily, because Ring of Honor is getting more than just money. Ring of Honor doesn't necessarily need to make money with the amount of money AEW is making. Ring of Honor is not making money currently under their current system. I can't imagine, because it depends on how you do the balance sheet. But you're basically paying these wrestlers and getting no revenue, and you're getting no tickets sold because all the tickets sold are for AEW other than your 3 pay-per-views a year. So you're really only selling 3 shows a year, plus whatever you're getting on Honor Club. So I don't think turning a profit is a big deal for Ring of Honor, but because you're getting a 40% cut of the revenue, it is possible. So again, if we look at it, the 300 ticket sold show, you're not making any money. The indie's under a lot more pressure to sell more tickets than that. So Ring of Honor would be losing money as well as the indie here, but you're also potentially losing future Ring of Honor bookings if you just fail to sell these tickets. But you get into that $750 range, all of a sudden Ring of Honor's turning a profit no matter how many stars are booked there. So again, you can kind of gauge this by if you've only sold like 500 tickets and it's a week out, maybe you announced 8 wrestlers, you're going to lose a little bit of money. Maybe next time you only announce 6 and hope you can sell those 500 tickets so you make that money back in the long run. But if you've sold, capacity $750 seats, this thing's a sellout, and you got 8 wrestlers on the card, now you can add a couple more on there because you're still making money no matter what. So what would be the indies that would potentially do this? So the inspiration for this video, recently Prestige Wrestling and Deadlock Pro Wrestling both announced they're going to go under. I don't necessarily know that that's for financial reasons, but it's hard to be an indie in 2025. All the talent are snatched up. That is another reason that I think indies would go for this, is you're already booking a lot of AEW talent and Ring of Honor talent on these indies because there's just not indie stars anymore in this day and age. WWE and AEW have snatched them all up. So you do this partnership, which you kind of have to be friendly with Tony Khan and Ring of Honor anyway. So you do this partnership, give them the cut of the gate, less downside, and you can book these guys a lot more frequently and at a higher, what is the word I'm looking for? And you get more of them on the card. So I went through Cage Match, just kind of looking at what indies are kind of already friendly with AEW, which ones are kind of prominent. So I wanted to go through a list of these guys just off the bat. Is you think maybe with these indies, if you have 13 friendly indies, if you did each indie 4 times a year, that's 52 tapings. That's a full year of TV. If you have like 26, then you can hit just every indie twice a year. You don't necessarily have to have every show be on these indies. You could still do some at TV tapings to make it a little more special. Maybe that makes your AEW crowd a little hotter for it because it's a special treat instead of something they kind of have to sit through. So Defy Pro Wrestling in Washington could be a potential partner. As we've discussed, Prestige Pro Wrestling is going under. They're saying hiatus, so maybe they'll be back, so I kept them on the list. They're out in Portland, Oregon. West Coast Pros in California. New Texas Pro Wrestling. Revolver Pro Wrestling in Ohio. DPW, if they come back, is based out of Tennessee. You got Winnipeg Pro in Winnipeg, obviously. Rev Pro, Progress, and Eve are all out in the UK. Big Time Wrestling's in Las Vegas. You got Hog, you got ACW, and you got Creator Pro out in New York, along with Wrestle Pro in Jersey. Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling, it's the East Coast Canadian Fed. Black Label Pro Wrestling out in Indiana. You got Limitless Pro Wrestling in Maine. Action Pro Wrestling in Georgia. NEW in BC. You got a couple other BC indies as well. I'm sure there's other indies you could potentially get on the list, but I just wanted to list a couple partners that could potentially do this. So you see, you kind of hit all sorts of different markets here with Ring of Honor. You probably sell 750 tickets all around the country like that, I would imagine. And it would really benefit both things. So the positives for your indie is you can sell more tickets booking more locals, right? So there's cheaper stars means cheaper expenses, which means lower risk. So you're potentially selling more tickets at a lower expense cost. You're obviously not getting as much of the net profits because you're splitting it with Ring of Honor, but the risk is lower. And you get national exposure for your local fans and wrestlers, which in turn, if the Defy shows, for example, are the hottest Ring of Honor shows, maybe that makes like a Randy Myers or a Cody Chung more popular nationally, which all of a sudden means they can start selling tickets on their own. Maybe you still get them at that local rate, but they're actually selling tickets on the marquee. And you can have more successful non-co-branded shows in the future. Your positives for Ring of Honor is you get your talents and scouts in front of hot, reactive crowds instead of these dead AEW post-show crowds where people are mostly sitting on their hands or leaving the arena. You help the industry by propping them up, raising the floor for the entire industry, which helps the health of the industry, not just Ring of Honor. And you get a chance to test the young talents around the country in kind of lower risk situations. You know, you get hot crowds for these guys, so you can do longer matches. You know, you could do like a Jay Lethal versus a Shaft for 15 minutes at a Defy card, even if it's on Ring of Honor, because the crowd will be hot for it, rather than just setting that guy out to die a death, doing like a 4-minute match in a 15,000 seat arena with 1,200 people there. You know, so less eyes in front of them, but more noise, more reaction from the crowd. Can test what they do a little bit more. And this also would strengthen your brand, because as you're touring around with Ring of Honor, maybe you get a little ambitious and you just do your solo Ring of Honor shows. See if you can, you know, you'll learn the venues, you know, you'll learn what markets are hotter for your product. So then if Seattle, for example, sells 750 tickets 3 times a year, maybe you don't run with Defy next time. Maybe you just run a Ring of Honor show, see if you can still sell those 750 tickets in that market, right? So you get market data for your wrestlers, for the wrestlers around the world, but also for your product. I think that covers everything. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Bye.